Good evening. Dana Lustig, Oakland. My first concern this evening is regarding the false narrative that CRT was proposed in the curriculum. At the beginning of the September 3rd Board of Education meeting, Mr. Budo stated Ms. Sullivan found 5 instances of CRT in her review of the curriculum. The auditorium was filled with parents at that time. It wasn't until the end of the meeting that the correction was made when Ms. Sullivan stated that she had not found instances of CRT. By that time the correction was made, most people had gone home believing this false narrative. While I appreciate Ms. Sullivan noting she did not find evidence of CRT, it was too little too late. This charade fuels misinformation and angers the public. My second concern is Ms. Sullivan's 1023 social media post in which she brings attention to a Ramapo College sociology class that students can elect to take. This elective college class is made available to students at a very discounted rate. I'm not sure if she was attempting to block students from this elective class. Ms. Sullivan states she was denied a copy of the presentation. Did Ms. Sullivan also request copies of other dual enrollment courses, including digital illustration, child development, computer science, or creative writing? Or was it just sociology, in which the dean in that department happens to be running for election? Our children are not pawns, and we are sick and tired of games being played. My next concern is the public comment in which regarding a club proposal that was going to be advised by our union president. This was not a new club proposal. This was a reintroduction of the Women's Empowerment Club. Does Ms. Sullivan have an objection about women's empowerment, the advisor, or both? Again, she is bringing discourse and using our children as a political pawn. Lastly, I'm asking all board members to stop using their social media pages as platforms for your personal opinions. It is unethical for board members to indicate, including Ms. Sullivan, that she is a board member of Ramapo Indian Hills and then post a clause that this is her personal opinion. It's unethical and it muddies the waters. Many of us, including myself, are blocked from Ms. Sullivan's page. Yet her supporters scream censorship across the aisle. It is a First Amendment violation for an elected official to block people from their social media if that page is in their official capacity. If the page was not in her official capacity, she wouldn't need to make a statement that the comments are in her own personal capacity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin Gonzalez, Oakland. I want to begin by addressing Mr. Budo's retirement/resignation. My understanding is that he merely moved and was no longer in the district. My concern is his statement that was read. He stated that he intended to stay on the Board of Ed until the new superintendent was seated. While noble, it's against the law if he's no longer in the district. And his departure under these circumstances appeared to be appropriate because rules apply to everyone. Next, I'd like to address Ms. Sullivan's obsession with bringing up Ms. King's ethics complaint against Mr. Budo. I believe last meeting she asked for an accounting of the wasted defense dollars spent on the proceeding. Ms. Sullivan knows, as an attorney of 30 years, that cases get dismissed. People win and people lose. That does not mean that the claim was frivolous. In fact, in Ms. King's case, it was found to not be frivolous, and there were no sanctions awarded. Ms. Sullivan's characterization of this proceeding, lambasting Ms. King for even bringing it and wasting money, is a misrepresentation of the decision, falsely insinuating that it was frivolous. That's misleading and needs to be corrected and acknowledged by Ms. Sullivan. Next, I want to address the vote from last week on the clubs. The only club that you and Ms. Sullivan both disapproved was the Democratic Club, under a pretense that it should include Republican speakers and be renamed. You approved every other club, even the Ultimate Frisbee Club. You didn't ask about the soccer players or the football players and offer to rename it the Ultimate Sports Club. You just did this with respect to the Democratic Club, which was transparent and quite frankly predictable. Your personal politics have no place here, again, especially when it impacts the freedom of speech of our kids. Madam President, you represent everyone's voice in this community. That includes Republicans, Democrats, independents, and everyone in between. Your allegiance is to our kids, not people on social media from other districts. You represent this district. You and Ms. Sullivan should not be shutting down differing points of view that are expressed to challenge you, to question you, or to disagree with you. These discussions may teach you something and may teach the speaker something as well. Voices should not be quieted through threats of lawsuits or by Ms. Sullivan consistently blocking people of differing views from her Facebook page in which she holds herself out as an RIH Board of Ed member. She blocks them every time they disagree with her. That is not representing the whole community. People will disagree with you. They will get frustrated, as I'm sure you do. But you need to remember that this Board of Education is a nonpartisan group whose sole mission is to work on behalf of this community. You said last meeting that you wanted to hit the reset button. You need to try again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrew McVeigh. I live in Oakland. Okay. There are two things I'd like to speak about. First of all, both of these I think are fairly timely in terms of what's been in the news. As I'm sure many of you are aware, there has been this big investigation prompted by the Attorney General at the behest of the National School Board Association. It's been reported, rather widely, that the National School Boards Association was working with the White House to draft a letter, which was then submitted to the Attorney General, which he then proceeded to go to the FBI with. I mean, this has been a lot all over the news. I think clearly that demonstrates the National School Board Association has a partisan basis, and as the previous speaker just mentioned, this should not be a partisan board. So if you are a member, and I don't know that you are, of the National School Boards Association, I think you should divorce yourself from that. Secondly, this whole thing with CRT that people have been talking about in the previous, the speaker before the last mention. There's a great deal, CRT is told, and I've taught at the undergraduate and graduate level, not the secondary level. But CRT, I'm told, is taught in law school, it's taught in graduate schools of education, it's not taught at the secondary level. However, then that's what education associations state. However, I also have seen where teachers say, I'm going to continue to teach it even if it's banned. So the point is, there is a great deal of murkiness as to whether this is really going on or it isn't going on. Okay? Let's try to resolve that, bring sunlight into the situation, and make things clear. So what I would suggest is that the board should consider taping each class that's being done. You can put a camera. I'm sure the technology, this is a rounding error in your budget, okay? That therefore it can be reviewed. It's kept on a server. If there are issues that come up as to what is being taught or what isn't being taught, this can be reviewed and just settle the discussion rather simply. So I don't think that's done at present. I think it would be a very good idea. It would, I think, bring transparency, which I think everybody would like. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Aridonio. I live in Franklin Lakes. Mr. Rishika mentioned that it was taught on Constitution Day, but I don't think it was. I mean, I made a quick survey of approximately 15 students. They don't even know when is Constitution Day. Now, what I'm going to say now, I want you to take only in that context because it can be very, very fragile. So what I'm saying right now is with zero hate, with zero any meaning, very, very fragile. I'm reading a Schoology message that was sent to all the students in the high school. And Mr. Rishika, I hope next Constitution Day you're going to send something equivalent. It goes like this. Good morning, Ramapur, quotation mark. Tomorrow is International Pronouns Day, a day that's meant to make sharing, respecting, and educating about pronouns compliance. Referring to people by pronouns they determine for themselves is basic to human dignity. If you would like to pick up a he, him, his, or she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs pin tomorrow, stop by room number 214, exclamation point, hashtag LGBTQ, bold red, plus history, bold yellow, month, highlighted in yellow, hashtag share in green, your in blue, pronouns, bold, purple. So my question to you, Mr. Ishika, is what emphasis does this school put on American values and Constitution Day? Now, I put that aside because I do think, like the other gentleman said, a lot is up to the teachers, but we're here to hold them accountable. I wasn't here to learn that Mr. Kinney is voted to be VP, so congratulations, Mr. Kinney. I just want to say that in general, and although I see a lot of campaigning going on here on school ground, which I think is actually unethical, borderline illegal, I think, President of the Board, that to appoint someone who's up for election in 8 days, while I think this year, for the first time in the history, early voting is already happening, so technically it can actually be already voted out to a position, first is uncool. I mean, just think about it. Second, I think it's unethical, and I think it's also borderline illegal. I really be happy to hear what Mr. Fogarty has to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ardith Cardenas, Franklin Lakes. Lest anyone forget, or for anyone who was not in attendance on September 27th's meeting, I'm going to quote board member Mr. Fortunato, quote, "If you don't already know my position on a lot of these things, it should be clear now to members on the left of the audience here, okay, that I do not agree with Mr. Budo, I do not agree with Ms. LaForgia on most topics, and I do not agree with Ms. Sullivan on most topics, okay? They represent an extreme right wing, as do some members of this audience," unquote. And once again, I'll read the definition of extreme right wing. The extreme right includes both vigilante groups and political parties that are often openly racist, have clear ties to fascism, and also employ violence and aggressive tactics. These groups may operate either outside or within the realm of electoral politics, or both. They tend to oppose procedural democracy. Just so we're clear, Mr. Fortunato, those of us you were referring to love democracy, and we love the rule of law. Second, you just took a vote, and I'm going to echo Ari. You took a vote to appoint Mr. Kinney to the VP position. Congratulations on that. But I don't understand how that makes any sense when we are in a campaign season and Mr. Kinney is on the ballot. To me, that's absurd. And then regarding filling the position of Mr. Budo's seat, elected officials whose terms are about to expire and whose successors have already been chosen have been labeled lame ducks since the early 20th century. The common law rule states that a current board should not bind a successor board. In 1 week, when the election is complete, what I may have sitting before me is a lame duck board. Therefore, the board should wait to vote on Mr. Budo's replacement until the new year, after residents have a chance to vote and those board members can be seated. It would be utterly undemocratic for board members to vote on a replacement or any other binding action in the name of the people of the community, because the people may have already voted for someone else. The outgoing members of the board will no longer represent us, and they are no longer entitled to participate in important votes. There are actually quite a few cases where lame duck board's votes were overturned in court in New Jersey, and I'll mention 2 of them. In Gonzalez versus Board of Education of Elizabeth School District, it was found that the board acted beyond the scope of its lawful authority when it appointed a superintendent. The case concluded that such an appointment usurps the will and power of the future board to fill a vacancy based on the future board's consideration of prevailing policy, personnel, and general welfare concerns. 2, in Georgia versus Sarunda, this common law lame duck rule was applied to invalidate the appointments of 2 members to the Jersey City Board of Education by the lame duck mayor. So my question, and a question that I would like answered tonight before we leave, is has the board consulted Mr. Fogarty regarding the ramifications of actions taken by a lame duck board?